Hi class, we're going to do the first part of chapter 22. So this is all about employment law. I was really looking forward to doing this chapter, well, this whole section of the book with you guys, this fourth marking period. But unfortunately that didn't happen, so this is just going to have to do. So lots of fun stuff coming up. I hope we get through the whole unit like I'd like to as well. So employment, it's the state of being employed or having a job. That one's pretty easy. An employer, that's an entity that gives someone else a job. An employee, someone who has a job. An independent contractor, that's someone who either works for themselves or is hired by a company to do a job but is not considered an employee. So when, what do you call it? When a contractor decides to build a house, they will hire different people to do the different jobs. They'll hire a plumber if they don't have one on staff, or an electrician, somebody to pour the foundation, but it's not always their employees doing the job. So that's what an independent contractor does. You can also think of when you sell 31 or Pampered Chef or anything like that, that's also an independent contractor job. So it's kind of like working for yourself. Employment at will. So this is a fun thing. What this means is that an employer can terminate an employee for anything at any time without giving a reason. Now, if you're in a union, which we'll get into in the next couple chapters, then you're protected. But if you work at, say, Turkey Hill, and your boss comes in and says, "You're fired, pack up your things right now," and you say, "Why?" the employer can say, "I don't have to give you a reason." Now, sometimes this happens and discrimination is involved. So then that would be looked at differently, but it's really hard to prove discrimination like that or a wrongful termination, especially in Pennsylvania, because it's an employment at will state, meaning you can be terminated or fired at any time. Wrongful discharge, that means that someone was fired from their job for an invalid reason. Now, once again, this is really hard to prove in Pennsylvania due to it being an employment at will state. So that could mean that somebody was fired for being discriminated against, or let's say if they were sick with COVID-19, they could have been fired even though there's protections against that. So that's what it means by wrongful discharge. Discharged without cause. Someone whose employment was terminated, but it was not the employee's fault. It could be due to layoffs or business closing. So, like Kmart closed, all the other stores that have closed, that's discharged without cause. There was no cause of the employees that caused them to be discharged, meaning it wasn't their fault. So it could be called discharged without fault. Knobles, if you think about it, at the end of the season, you're laid off, you're terminated. So that means you are discharged without cause until the next season. Unemployment compensation. That is money paid by the government to an employee that was discharged without cause. So if you are unemployed without any fault of your own, I believe that's the exact wording, then you would apply for unemployment compensation and the government would administer that. That is usually administered by the state, so you would go to the Department of Labor and Industry's website for Pennsylvania, and you would open up a claim, and then every 2 weeks you would file and let them know that you're still unemployed. This is what everybody's talking about right now, how the unemployment compensation website is pretty much down because of so much activity there. And that extra $600 that you might have heard about, that has to do with the federal government giving extra money in to it. So that's why I said it's usually handled by the state, but the federal government can step in. So then we have discharged for cause. So this is you're terminated for a reason, such as felonious conduct. So you committed a felony. If you're going to jail for more than 30 days, insubordination. So if you tell your boss off and they say you're fired, well then that is discharged for cause. You caused it yourself. And that is the end of the first part of chapter 22. Stay tuned. Next week will be the second part.